Good morning. I've gotten a couple questions on adding text to parts that I would refer to as smart, meaning that they update with the properties of the part. And I figured I'd do a quick tutorial on that. This works really well for simple parts that you have a lot of. So in this case, this is a spacer ring that I use on my laser table. And it makes my OD the exact same, so I don't have to change any of my numbers for calculation's sake. So I have a pile of these, and they all have different IDs, but they all have a similar OD. So I just want a label on every single one of them, so I can just grab and go and just read the label and know that I'm good. So we're going to go through how to set it up to be really efficient. We're going to go through a few steps. First, we're going to talk about the sketch itself, and then we're going to talk about some properties in the document, and then we'll finally program it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the sketch that's my main revolve, and I want to edit this. And so I have these dimensions, the OD and the ID. Those are the ones that I want to drive. So I'm going to select it, and I'm going to drag it up slightly so I get this dimension properties, and I'm actually going to change the name to begin with. So I'm going to change this to ID, and I'm going to change this to OD. That'll be important in the future. So now that those are named, we're going to go ahead and exit the sketch. That doesn't change anything. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put in some custom properties. We're going to go to the file properties, and I want to make sure this is in configuration. You can see that I've already set up the ID and the OD. I also want to add the circumference. I can just put in a place filler for right now and a description. To add one, all you have to do is type in. So if I wanted to do a part number as well, and then again, I'll put in part number as a filler right now. We're going to hit OK. So now we have our properties and our sketches lined up. Now we want to insert a design table. So we're going to come up to Insert. We're going to go down to Table. We're going to insert an Excel design table. We're going to go ahead and auto-create this. We're going to hit the arrow. It's going to pop up. And the very first thing we want to do is add in our dimensions we want to drive. Because we've named them, their ID and OD, if we didn't know that, we could grab all of these and then find it in the future. But those are the only two that we want to change. The rest of these are like my chamfer, how many degrees the entire thing's revolved. All that stuff isn't really needed. All I need is the ID and the OD. I'm not on the server. Don't worry about that. All right, so it's been created. So we're going to come to our configuration. We have tables. We're going to edit this. We want to edit this in a new window, so it's a little easier to work with. That'll pop up, but this is the important part. We want to make sure to grab all of our properties. So circumference, description, ID, OD, part number, and hit OK. This will all load up into an Excel document. I'm going to go ahead and grab everything and change it from a text to a number. That way I can use formulas. I'm also going to reorder things a little bit because we're driving it with the properties. I want to put those at the front. So I'm going to insert those, and we're going to make this one a little wider. The description is going to be a little wider, and part number is going to be a little wider. Okay. We have our ID and our OD. Again, OD is driving, so I'm going to cut that and put it in front. This isn't really needed. It's just for my sake. We're going to take the ID from the sketch and make it to the ID property. We're just going to link that, and we're going to have the OD driven by the OD property. We also want to have the circumference equal the OD times pi. Perfect. Since this number can get, it's multiplied by pi, so it's non-repeating, we are going to cap that one at 3 decimal places. So I'm going to round to this number to 3 decimal places. Good. And again, we actually want these to be 3 decimal places. So I'm just going to grab that. Come on now. I need that number. Let's see what's going on. This is being stored as a text, so I need to change it to a number. There we go. Better. Again, we just want to make sure everything's numbered so that we can format to be exactly what we want. 3 decimal places. Okay, the last thing is that we want to drive the description and the configuration name based on these values. So I'm going to go ahead and write an equation here. Since I already have this set up, the first thing I'm going to do is just write exactly what I want. I want the ring OD, and I want the OD written, so 4.00. Then I want the ring ID, parentheses 3.5, comma, and the circumference, and what that's going to be. So in this case, 12.560. This is going to give me a template to work off of when I make an equation. So I'm going to put an equal sign, parentheses, take all the wording that I want, parentheses, ampersand, get rid of the value, which in this case it's 4-inch, and I'm going to select that value. And I'm going to do another ampersand, another parentheses. Okay. You're going to just keep working through this. Parentheses, ampersand, delete the value, grab the next value, ampersand, parentheses, 3 circumference, and ampersand number. Enter. Let's see how that looks. Not bad. So what this formula is it's putting a string together. So this is going to be the first string inside the parentheses, then it's going to add the value, then add the next string, then add the value, then add the next string. We enter in this again, since this is 4 inches and it doesn't have those trailing zeros, we want to change that to be 3 decimal places. And for that, we're going to use a formula called text. And this is going to format your text. So we're going to do the value, comma, and then the format we want. Again, this has to be in parentheses, so it's 0.000. That's going to take it to 3 decimal places, and parentheses. And now we can see it's 4.000 rather than just being 4.0. We're going to do the same thing to the 3.5. Text, comma, parentheses, 0.000, parentheses, excuse me, quotation parentheses, and to the final, to the circumference. So text, value, comma, 0.000, quotation, parentheses. Now let's take a look at that full description. That's exactly what I want. So because I want the description and the configuration name to be the same, I'm just going to copy and paste that formula right on it. Okay, so we now have one configuration set up, but that doesn't really help us because we'll want like 3 or 4 of these. So I want the IDs to change from 3.25 to 3.5 to 3.75, and let's go ahead and do it 3-inch as well. As we do that, we can see that all of our text is updating, and all of our formulas will also update. So let's go ahead and say we need a second set of rings that are going to be 4.5-inch OD. So we'll change all these, 4.5. And now we have 2 sets. We have a 4-inch set and a 4.5-inch set. And again, we can see that the circumference is going to update, the OD is going to update, and the ID is going to update. That's exactly what we want. So we're going to save this document and close it. As we do this, SolidWorks is going to pull from that and ask you if you want to add the configurations. We're going to hit OK. And now we're just going to check that everything's working. So we're going to grab this ring here. We should see the dimensions change. Perfect. We're going to jump to the next one, which has a larger ID, so it should get thinner. Good. Larger ID again. Should get thinner. Good. And then we're going to change the OD. So let's go all the way up to the 4.5-inch. And we should see the OD get larger. Perfect. Design table is working. Moving on to the last step. The last step is to get this text to pull in the configuration name. So we're going to go back to the part. In this case, I've wrapped the simple sketch. So I'm going to go to that sketch. And all I've added in here is text, using the text inside the sketch ribbon. I'm going to double click on it to bring up the editor. You can see right now I have dumb text. I was manually typing this in. That is not what I want. So we'll go ahead and delete that out, and we will link it to a file property. We're going to hit the link button. We're going to keep in the current document. We're going to come to the property name, and we're going to find the configuration name. We're going to hit OK. You can see that it automatically enters in that information. So we'll hit OK. We'll finish up the text drop. And we can see that it's going to put that information right on our ring. So again, we'll just kind of prove this out. We'll jump down to a smaller OD ring. We're going to see that it goes to the OD, the ID, and the circumference are all printed right on the part. So this is going to finish up our tutorial. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Have a good day.